What is going on, everybody? Welcome to Off the Top Rope, Off the Mic Sports Network, recapping the July 18th episode of SmackDown. We're 2 weeks away from SummerSlam, believe it or not. This is flying through. It's it obviously these stunted builds with multiple shows and multiple spans of weeks, but I've got to say, man, WWE has done a really incredible job since, I mean, even before, like, even in the aftermath of Night of Champions, leading into Saturday, like they already had, some matches obviously, building. And then obviously this jelly roll thing came about. Everybody was, outraged about it. And, like I said, they've in the span of, about a couple of weeks now, we've got, I think, like 7 or 8 matches already confirmed. The Roman Reigns match, him teaming with Jey Uso to take on Braun Breaker and Bronson Reed, is going to be made official. Obviously, CM Punk's the #1 contender, but a couple of major stipulations came out of this show on Friday Night SmackDown. And like I said, listen, it wasn't like an amazing show, but it was fine. It was fine. Like there wasn't anything like inherently bad on it. I know a lot of people are going to nitpick the shit out of this show, with a couple of decisions that they made throughout the night in terms of, booking things. Like we'll get to Stephanie Vaquer being on the show and, facing off against Alba Fire. And we could probably get into some other stuff related to the women's division about some people, falling in or out of favor. And I don't think it's anything personal. It's just, the way things are. But obviously, the major talking point is John Cena and Cody Rhodes is now a street fight. Cody getting vicious at the end of this. John Cena was trying to back out of the match, saying that he had to film a movie. They did a nice little. It was almost like a dissolve, but it was like a split screen. It was really well done. And Cena kind of trying to be all nice and everything, and then he walked away, teased the belt shot. Cody ducked it, and then he gets the belt, and he actually doesn't hesitate and hits John Cena, and then puts Cena on the table where the contract was supposed to be signed. He splashes Cena through the table, uses John Cena's hand to sign his own name. It's not really a forge, but some people were like, "Man, that's a crime." No, but this was fun. It was fine. I mean, for the limited amount of time that they're going to have to build this, I mean, it wasn't like the most amazing segment in the world, and it doesn't necessarily, change a whole lot of how I feel about this particular match happening at SummerSlam, and it's basically running back one of the worst main events in the history of WrestleMania. But they do give it the street fight stipulation, which invites the likelihood of bullshit. I know a lot of people are going to say The Rock. I know a lot of people are going to say Travis Scott. I hope that neither one of those are involved in this match. We do not need The Rock. We do not need Travis Scott to repair this storyline. Because I think there's already been irreparable harm done to this that may take a while to fix. However you want to get to this conclusion, it should be, maybe Seth Rollins, if he really is, not, which if he is, in fact, this is in fact a worked injury, maybe that factors into this. But it's just, listen, I don't see any value in Rock or Travis Scott coming into the fray here after they dropped off the face of the earth, since like Rock dropped off the face of the earth 4 months ago, almost 5 months ago. Travis Scott, we haven't seen since WrestleMania, and the word I got was he didn't give a shit about trying to train up for a match, which is why, a lot of people were not warmed over to the idea of Jelly Roll. But, if there is bullshit, fine, but if there's weapons, great. I think if you need to kind of ham this thing up a little bit to, invite the opportunities for shit to happen. I don't know really what the bet. Listen, Cody winning seems like the obvious outcome, but there's a bunch of other possibilities on the table that I'm really interested to see if they go with it or if they just play it safe. Because Cody could turn heel winning the championship. That's been discussed. I just don't see anything where The Rock coming in, and unless he's going to be a regular fixture on television, which we know he's not, he's a flake. I just don't see any value of this continuing. So that's my take on that. The other major stipulation that came out of tonight, really is what started off the show. There was a car crash involving the MFTs and Solo Sokoa getting into a car accident, and there was interviews going on outside of the building in San Antonio. And this led to one thing led to the other. Solo tried to frame Jacob Fatu. Um, and once Jacob was cleared, he beat the shit out of all the MFTs. And, Jimmy Uso helped out as well. And this leads to Adam Pearce, who was filling in for Nick Aldis, basically announcing that Solo Sokoa defending the United States Championship against Jacob Fatu inside of a steel cage. So um, that's a big piece of this show. And, hey, it adds some unpredictability. Um, they're still going to have the fallback of the whole, escape the cage thing, which I also think is kind of lame. It makes it kind of exciting if it's a race to the end. But in a blood feud like this, you don't really need an escape the cage, element. It's kind of just a get out of jail free card. So I'm interested to see how, like, the MFTs are still going to get involved. Jimmy Uso is still going to get involved in this match. But is there going to be, is Jacob going to try a top rope, a top of the cage moonsault? Is Solo going to try something at the top of the cage? There's bound to be some crazy shit happening in this match at SummerSlam. So I actually am kind of looking forward to that. This show is actually coming together really nicely. Um, but so I need to talk. I'm not gonna bog you guys down with this was a 2-hour show, and since a 2-hour format, it's moved a little bit quicker. But I think you're starting to see some of the effects of that. One of those things that was not affected is the pairing between Charlotte Flair and Alexa Bliss. Um, I mean, I'm not going to go as far as to say this, but this could very well potentially save the tag team division, because Charlotte and Alexa are so great together. And it's brought something out of Alexa. It's clearly brought something out of Charlotte. She's having more fun. The crowd's reacting to her. This is the most likable version of Charlotte maybe that we've ever seen. Like, it's night and day from where she was around WrestleMania, where nobody wanted to see her and she was getting go away heat, to now she's getting some of the biggest pops of the night. Her hot tag in the Fatal 4-Way at Evolution was one of the best, and she was getting Charlotte chants tonight. It was awesome. It was awesome. But this whole thing was set up. So Charlotte's facing Raquel Rodriguez in a singles match. And basically backstage before, like right after that, opening segment where Solo, is talking to the police about the car crash, where they start to frame Jacob Fatu. So Charlotte's talking to Alexa saying, hey, I got us a match at SummerSlam for the tag team titles against Raquel and Roxanne. And Alexa was like, cool. And then Charlotte asked for her help in the match. And, famously, like a couple weeks ago, what do I look like, a cheerleader? And Charlotte says, yes. And Alexa goes, like, yeah. And so we get the entrance of Charlotte, and Alexa is dressed up as a cheerleader with black pom-poms. It was like a throwback to her NXT days. And that popped me. These two are just so freaking entertaining. It really is a breath of fresh air to see, two of the staples of this women's division over the last decade kind of take a step back and, do something a little bit different. And this has really, in my eyes, changed a lot of the perception about Charlotte. She kind of referenced, hey, I'm Charlotte Flair. I can still go after championships. But, listen, she's out of the title picture. At some point, maybe she will be back in the title picture, but, in the world title picture. But, I'll tell you one thing, Dave Meltzer was eating crow, man. Like, Wrestling Observer newsletter, there was stuff that was put out that Charlotte and Alexa was going to happen at SummerSlam and there was going to be a turn. I was like, that doesn't make any sense. Like, Charlotte literally just saved Alexa in the tag match at Evolution last week. Why would they even move off of this? They're doing the tag team match, and I think what you're going to see here is I think they're going to win the tag team titles. That's the most sensible thing. I like Raquel and Roxanne. That's a temporary thing, kind of just to piece that together. Charlotte and Alexa, I think, as champions would be really good for this women's tag division. I don't think it's ever going to be what they expected it to be, but to have two of your best women in that division, and in a really compelling and entertaining act is really good for this tag team division. So I'm looking forward to that match. By the way, 4 women's matches on this show, and there might be a 5th depending on if they want to put Nikki Bella on the show. It's a 2-night show, but you've got Intercontinental Championship, both women's championship matches, and the tag team championship. That's unbelievable. That's really amazing. Um, so yeah, this match, Charlotte and Raquel went about 9 minutes. Raquel there's a distraction, and Alexa hits Raquel with a pom pom. Um, it leads to a kick and then a roll up for a 3, and so Charlotte gets the win here. Um, then they set up the whole thing with Jacob Fatu. He's deemed a person of interest in the whole car accident at the start of the show, so he goes and takes questions. We get a video package with Tiffany Stratton and Jade Cargill. This is pretty good, but considering that these two are fighting in 2 weeks for the women's championship, this feels kind of just underwhelming, and it's almost like they're trying to mask the deficiencies of these two women, which cutting the like. Listen, from a wrestling perspective, I'm interested to see how this goes because Tiffany's very new to the business. Jade has been in the business, and we know that she's not the best. So I don't really know how excited I am for this, because now with the Naomi cash-in happening, there's a lot of the intrigue out. It is kind of sucked out of this match. Like, maybe they go out there and kill it, and it's going to be a testament to these two women to see if they can put something together. But it's just, I don't know how a lot of people are going to feel about this. But the video package, correlating a lot of their similarities was pretty well done. Like, they had issues with friends. It was pretty well done. But yeah, Tiffany's title run has been kind of underwhelming, and it's not really her fault. They pushed her and they put her into a spot because hey, she's very popular, but she's also very new to the business. So this is a big spot for her. I mean, she beat Charlotte Flair at WrestleMania. The expectation seems like Jade Cargill is going to win this match. Who knows? But yeah, a lot of the drama, I think, of this was kind of sucked out of with the Naomi cash-in happening at Evolution on the Women's World Championship, which shook the division. But now it kind of puts the SmackDown Women's division in a really interesting place because they're kind of in a holding pattern now until Bianca Belair gets back, which we're hoping is soon. She wasn't anywhere to be found on this show. Damian Priest has a backstage segment. He's looking for Aleister Black. He gets into a confrontation with Carmelo Hayes. We get Carmelo Hayes TV time, which is great. And this actually, for 9 minutes, was a really solid match. Carmelo and Damian kind of cooked. But then Damian goes for old school at the end of this match. Aleister Black knocks him off, and it leads to the DQ. He hits him with a black mass. I like this side from Aleister Black. I know a lot of people haven't really connected with Aleister Black yet, but I think this change to a heel, I actually think suits him a lot better. Because once the novelty of his return wore off, you knew like it was going to be hard for him to stand out. So this losing streak leading into something with Damian Priest, I actually think could be really interesting. Maybe it gets added to SummerSlam. That would be cool for Damian Priest. He's from New York, and they're doing it in New Jersey, so that would be pretty cool for him to get a big spot on this SummerSlam card because he's been consistently one of their better guys. We get a Wyatt 6 promo, where basically they're talking about the Street Profits bomb was all for lust of gold. They start talking about stripping the teams of their desires, burning their vanity. Listen, I gotta say this. I'm out on the Wyatt 6. All due respect. I love Bray Wyatt and I love the creative mind is. And Bo, like, it's cool that they're getting to do this. Rowan, I like all the people in this group. Gacy, Loomis, and Nikki Cross. Like, this ain't working. This is not working for me anymore. Like, when it was going on initially, before all the injuries kind of fell this thing apart, and then they moved to SmackDown, I was fine with it because they had some intrigue. They were getting involved with people who, like, they were trying to give justice to, I guess. And then obviously, with Bray and all that stuff being fresh in our mind. And, obviously the initial debut was so awesome, but the injuries have kind of felled it. And there's just there's nothing really to this team. There's nothing really to this. And Gacy and Loomis are fine, but considering they're the tag team champions in a division that has DIY, the Street Profits, um, Motor City Machine Guns, Fraxium, like, and now Andrade, and now they're going to be challenged by, spoiler, Andrade and Ray Phoenix. It's like all those teams are better than this. And I feel like it's almost like a token title run. And it's like, I feel bad because like I have all the respect in the world for Bray Wyatt, but this just ain't working, man. And you know, this was a very cryptic promo. It wasn't a great first message. It didn't really connect with me. I don't know how you guys feel, but like I said, I'm not trying to be disrespectful or anything. It's just it doesn't feel like, you know, hey, they're the tag team champions, but why? And you're in such a great division with so they had this fatal four way that I'm going to talk about in a second that was fucking unbelievable. And Loomis and Gacy are not nearly close to any of those teams in that match. And the Street Profits just unceremoniously, a great title run, didn't have any defenses on PLEs, kind of just getting tossed to the side for this nostalgia act. And it's like, unless there's going to be some substance to this run, I just have no reason to believe that this is anything interesting. So I feel bad, but it's just that's how I feel. Um, so then Solo has a promo. Jacob ends up arriving in an SUV. He's revealed as not being the person of interest. There's an attack. They brawl, and then all of a sudden, Adam Pearce sets up the match. That it's going to be a steel cage at SummerSlam between Jacob Fatu and Solo Sikoa. And then the police basically tease that they're going to go after and try to go arrest somebody, and they arrest Solo. So seemingly, even though they didn't say it, it was implied that Solo was the guy who rammed the car and tried to frame it on Jacob Fatu because of his his very public, legal history. So that was very interesting. Stephanie Vaquera gets an appearance on SmackDown. She takes on Alba Fire with Piper Niven at ringside. Interestingly enough, no Chelsea Green involved here. This match went 90 seconds. We get a Devil's Kiss and an SVB, which I love Stephanie. We got to get her a different finisher than the SVB. That's not the greatest looking finisher. And this was over in 90 seconds. A lot of people were outraged because of what they did to Alba Fire, former Kaylee Ray, who was a 400-day title run as NXT UK Women's Champion. And everybody's all outraged that, hey, 90 seconds for Stephanie Vaquera, who's challenging for a women's championship in a month and a half at Clash in Paris. She beat Alba Fire. Cool. I mean, I feel bad for Alba Fire, but this is not like poor Alba Fire because, guys, if this would have taken 5, 6, 7 minutes, you would have been mad that Stephanie Vaquera took that long. That's how these things go. Like, you can't play it both ways. And I'm more frustrated that there really was, Piper Niven attacks after the bell, and there was no involvement from Nikki Bella, and Nikki Bella seemed to be teasing that maybe something was happening. So I hope that they find a way to get Stephanie onto the SummerSlam card, but I guess that's not in the cards. I think even more disappointing is Julia and Zelina Vega did not make the show at all. This is the drawbacks of, going from, 3 hours back down to 2. But listen, I think a lot of the outrage over Alba Fire losing in 90 seconds is a little bit overblown. Street Profits get an interview. Interestingly enough, Angelo Dawkins looked really serious, which made me think maybe this is something with the Wyatt Six. I don't know. You get all the tag teams, or you get DIY gets into the shot. They say something, so then that leads into the next match, the Fatal 4-Way to determine the number 1 contenders for the tag team titles. Fraxium, Motor City Machine Guns, Ray Phoenix and Andrade, and DIY. This match was fucking great. This is fucking great. Ray Phoenix is a fucking maniac. And you guys who've watched AEW know that already. The one thing that I will say, and if I'm being completely honest here, there was no control over this matchup. I had no idea who the fuck was legal in this. Like, everybody was just getting in there. It was very, I'm not going to say AEW, but it kind of was. This is what happens when you get these big schmazes of matches. But Gargano and Ciampa got a lot of great stuff in. Andrade ends up getting like I said, my favorite move in wrestling, the spinning back elbow from Andrade. It should finish matches. Message is a good looking finish. Please do the spinning back elbow. But Ray Phoenix and Andrade are fucking great. They're gonna have a tag team title match next week. So yeah, but this was fucking awesome. So they're in Cleveland next week, so we're gonna get more payoff of the Logan Paul stuff. Alexa Bliss and Roxanne Perez are gonna face each other. So Alexa not too like a couple hours away from her hometown or her hometown of Columbus. And then obviously, the tag team title matches with the Wyatt Six taking on Ray Phoenix and Andrade. Then Cody Rhodes, we get the contract signing. John Cena basically tries to get out of it, saying he's not going to be at SummerSlam. He's filming something for Netflix. He said, yeah, we could do this in Paris or at Perth, but we're not doing it at SummerSlam. I wouldn't be faithful if I was signing it. And yeah, this was a different way to go about it. Cody then signs the contract, as I said, after, having, Cena feigned, backing out of the match. Like I said, given the circumstances and, the announcing the stipulation, I think was the most important piece of this whole thing. In the grand scheme of things, given with what they had and how much time and, the limited availability of Cena, they probably could have done better, but this was fine. Like it popped the crowd. Cody, they're gonna pop for a good table spot. Cody, showing some aggression, feeding those rumors that he might be turning heel. Like I said, it was fine, but considering that this is the main event of SummerSlam and it's running back one of the worst WrestleMania main events of all time, I don't feel any more excited or, intrigued by it. It's like I said, it's Cody Rhodes and John Cena. And, it's going to be interesting to see that dynamic. The street fight stipulation certainly adds something to it. But, we're inviting the possibility of bullshit because we know that John Cena at this stage of his career cannot work a no bells and whistles match at this stage of his career. So it was a weird way to go about it. Some of the production in this, like with the split screen, was actually really well done. But yeah, this was kind of, in terms of contract signings, this was not like the greatest thing I've ever seen. And given what we might have expected from it, it feels kind of like a letdown. But like I said, sent the crowd home happy. We got some at least some character development from Cody. And it's going to fuel the rumors. Hey, he used the belt. He didn't hesitate this time. He went through the table. He basically, forged John Cena's signature to get this contract signed. So we've got a match in 2 weeks at SummerSlam. I don't know how it's going to turn out. But as I said at the top of the show, I just really hope that Rock and Travis Scott are nowhere near this match. I don't think listen, even if they did come in and it created a thrilling ending and a compelling ending, there's got to be a payoff. And I just don't have any expectation whatsoever in either one of those guys. And I don't give a shit about Travis Scott in a wrestling sense. Frankly, listen, Fiend was driving me crazy and stuck in my head. Like, listen, Jelly Roll is at least committing to it. And the word is he's training at the PC. Travis Scott doesn't give a shit about this. This is all about him. Okay. And The Rock, it's all about him. So I don't want either one of those guys near this match. So listen, all in all, a fine SmackDown. It got the job done, but it wasn't anything special. It wasn't anything like extraordinary. You got some major stipulations involved in this 2 hours. Like you got a really good match, as really like the pseudo main event match, which was that 4-way tag match. I love what they're doing with Charlotte and Alexa Bliss. And like I said, the major stipulations with the US Championship and the world and the WWE Undisputed Championship. Cena and Cody did what they could, but like I said, this is for the main event. It felt like you needed more, but I understand given time constraints, this is just what they had to do. So, anyway, we'll have a lot more coming here on the channel. Thanks so much for watching. I appreciate it. I'll see you guys soon. Bye-bye.